we got the gangs of Chicago calling out Trump and the National Guard. Are you kidding me? Look at this clip right here, folks. Go ahead and play it, Alex.
Trump, do not send the National Guard to Chicago, gang. Do not, I repeat, do not do it. We are a different fucking breed out here, nigga. We are not Los Angeles. Nigga, we are not Washington, D.C. Nigga, this is Chicago, nigga. Them niggas go fight back. I'm telling you, them niggas go fight back, gang. Whatever, I don't give a fuck what you talking about. Them young niggas got switches, gang. They not going for that shit, bro. I know a bunch of y'all finna say, oh, it's the National Guard. They can't do anything about it. They must go in Chicago. Nigga, do y'all know that it's more bad people than good people, bro? There are over 100,000 gangs in Chicago by the city by itself, gang.
So what do you think of what happens when the military sections off McDonald's and this guy misses his Big Mac? That guy's grotesquely overweight. You think they're scared of a guy like that? Nah, not really. Wait till you fire back at the National Guard and then Trump ups the ante. I don't know, sends in special forces, starts doing house raids, starts closing in on the perimeters where the gang's all, motherfucker. Yeah, ain't going to work out too well. Folks, hit the notifications button, like, share, and subscribe. Share this like herpes, folks. Yeah, give the gift that keeps giving. Folks, Venmo, 𝗬𝗏1977, 𝗬𝗏1977. When the Lights Go Out, my book, When the Lights Go Out, I got to tell you, folks, this book's doing pretty good. So the reviews have been awesome. I get a lot of emails telling, hey, I read your book. Wow, what a crazy life. Folks, I had to leave some of the chapters out. I wrote another 3 or 4 chapters, and I had to leave them out. My dad's like, that's a little much. They don't need to know that. I'm like, all right. So maybe I'll do the lost chapters in another book. The lost chapters of When the Lights Go Out. I'm thinking about doing it. Just add them in and be like, here's what you missed. One of them is the donkey show. Sancho went to the donkey show, and he was scarred for the rest of his life. Folks, also the Mexican mix. The Mexican mix. Yeah, I went to a donkey show when I was 14, and I was never the same. Probably why I went into boxing and took so many hits to the head after that. I just couldn't believe what I saw. That was in Juarez. Yeah, it was bad. But, you know, you're exposed to a lot growing up on the border. The Mexican mix, my mama's book. Please leave her an honest review. Also, Noble Gold, folks. Get Noble Gold. While you're distracted by headlines, the insiders are getting ready. Billionaires, big banks, even foreign governments are hoarding gold. They know the dollar is being devalued. They know the next crash is coming. So why don't you own what they're buying? Noble Gold Investments makes it simple to protect yourself with the same investment grade gold and silver the elites are stockpiling. Real assets you can hold in your hand and keep safe in your retirement account. Don't do it. You got to do it before it's too late, folks. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today. Noblegoldinvestments.com today. Get started on that. Trust me when I tell you. I have a lot of conversations about this off air. It's coming. The phases of this operation, wink, wink, is happening, and it's take America back, clean up America. Folks, I told you many times, criminals are not going to be able to live, survive, and thrive in what's coming. We all saw what's coming. We all saw what happened on that subway, that horrific incident where that lady got stabbed. Guess what, folks? It happened to me too. My whole throat got slit open. I almost died. Lost a little over 2 pints of blood. That's a lot of blood, and I got 369 stitches. Let me say that again. 369 stitches inside and out. A meticulous cosmetic surgeon just happened to be on call that night to take care of my face. I was in a coma. I didn't know any better. So this stuff's got to stop. I am a victim myself, and I'll tell you what. These cowards, these criminals, they don't fight fair. Nah, they come up behind you and they slit your throat. That's what they do. Time to clean up the cities. And I'm telling you, folks, I'm telling you now, it's happening. And you know what? If we have to deal with some military on the streets in these Democratic hellholes for the time being, I'm all for it. Now, I've said before, I watch this pendulum swing left. It's going to go right. The cure's got to be greater than the disease. Trump even corrected a reporter earlier and said, wait a minute. This is not war. I'm not going to war in Chicago. I'm cleaning up crime. Big difference. Huge difference. Huge difference. Folks, I got SGN going to be joining me today. Great and stellar podcast. I guarantee it. I guarantee this one. Folks, go to X is Nino Boxer on X, Nino Boxer, patriotwear.com, patriotwear.com. Get yourself a hat and a shirt, some socks. Yes, I have socks on there. Ringside with Nino. Folks, I'm pulling the plug on the sale. It's 50% off everything. I'm pulling the plug on the sale Wednesday midnight. So you got till Wednesday. So my Ringside with Nino is Wednesday. This Wednesday, I'm going to give people time to sign up. It's half off, 50% off everything. Everything right now on Nino. And this ain't going to happen again. This is not happening again. I'm getting a lot of thank you emails like, oh, I came back and blah, blah, blah. All right, I appreciate you folks, but I'm going to pull the sale soon. So Wednesday night, midnight, it ends. So if you want to join Nino's Corner.tv, get the greatest and best news first, because we are. We are. And got Juan coming on. And I know the big news that's supposed to happen this week. I know you all saw his video. I'm not going to betray his trust. But it is big. It's very big. And a lot of you were guessing it. So I had to take it off the comments. I had to disable the comments. But I'll have 𝗬𝗏 on probably today talking about more of that. And, maybe on Ringside with Nino, I'll just tell you what it is. I don't know. Because it's not going to be public. So Ringside with Nino, 50% off. And the General's Tent, 50% off. Everything ends Wednesday night. Charlie Ward night. Charlie Ward's going to be the next general in the General's Tent. I think that should be fun. He's a great personality. He's a positive guy. I might do a doubleheader General's Tent with Juan. I don't know. And I need to get SGN on back. SGN on's going to do, we're going to do the fluff tube here, and then we're going to go back to Nino's Corner.tv and drop it like it's hot. All right, folks, Nino's Corner.tv. I got Mike Fury up right now, who is a defense contractor, done some big jobs. Big jobs. I met him at We Build the Wall with Steve Bannon. Great guy. A lot of companies use this guy, defense contractor, has his ears to the ground when it comes to the border. He's saying, hey, Maduro's not going to last long. Find out why on Nino's Corner.tv. He drops some massive intel there, and this guy knows what he's talking about. I got Dustin Nemos on talking about Trump is the Antichrist. I'll just leave that right there. You all decide on that one. I got 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗁 is up there right now. 𝗂𝗏 coming on. L.A. Marzulli, baby. And SG Anon. And the Ghost is coming back on soon. So, folks, you might want to turn it down or turn it up. And I know a lot of you turn it down. It's all right. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I think I'm stuck in this now where I have to keep doing this. It's like my trademark. A lot of people are like, you got to keep doing it. You started it. You got to keep doing it. So, turn it down. Turn it down. Coming at you live from the apocalypse, folks. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, I own it. All right, folks, I'm hearing a big win is coming for MAGA, the MAGA community this week, but I can't say what it is. So Trump. Yeah, it's gonna be Trump doing it. But Juan kind of wanted to put out a teaser. And he's real confident about it. He's up in Washington, D.C. right now. Had a lot of big meetings. So this is supposed to happen this week. Let's give it this week, next week. I don't know. He said this week. So this week. Chicago mayor is literally preparing Chicago for war with his rallying cries. And you got gang members in Chicago, like you just saw right there, the guy that weighed about 350 pounds, saying, come on, motherfucker, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's see how this works out for you. And that just proves right there, Chicago's got to be cleaned up. And like I said, for him, just section off the McDonald's. He'll be done. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson responds to Trump's apocalypse truth post troll of Chicago with, the president's threats are beneath the honor of our nation, but the reality is that he wants to occupy our city and break our Constitution, Johnson wrote in response on X. We must defend our democracy from this authoritarianism, by protecting each other and protecting Chicago from Donald Trump. Why? Because he wants to go in there and clean up the violent crime of you all killing each other? That you're going to protect each other from killing each other? I'm trying to make sense of this. It doesn't make any sense. That's why they're going to go in there. And I'm hearing it could be this month and soon, like in the next few weeks. And probably it could be even the next few days. Our Chicagoan, one Chicagoan even said, you saw one that I just played, but one Chicago even says, we are the troops. We are the troops. So Trump's going to move in with the National Guard. They better be ready for these guys to probably fire off some rounds. It'll be some chicken shit stuff for a while. And then if Trump has to, what do you think he's going to do? You think he's just going to pull back the National Guard? You think that's how this works? No, they'll cut electricity to the neighborhoods. They'll section off. They'll close in perimeters. They'll shut down grocery stores. You won't get any food. I don't think they understand what's coming here, how this plays out. And then if he has to, special forces, helicopters. I mean, you really want this? You really want this? Okay. All right. So they're saying they are the troops inside Chicago's split communities as Trump vows to deploy the National Guard. The National Guard is just the first line of defense. After that, it gets a lot worse. So if you fight against the National Guard, understand more's coming. A lot of tax dollars pay for this stuff. And defense contractor Mike Fury gave MyNino'sCorner.tv big intel on Maduro and Venezuela. Venezuela is literally also getting ready for war. So you got Chicago, you got Venezuela. Thousands upon thousands are enlisting to join the militia. You also have, from what I've heard, some troops, some pilots defecting from Venezuela coming to the United States. Now, I don't know what the exact promise is on that, but I've heard that there's pilots defecting saying, fuck no, we're not stupid. We're not going to fight against the U.S. We're out of here. See you later. And they're being promised amnesty. So I've heard that. It's rumors. I have not validated it. Yeah, the blood moon was last night. You're right. Yeah, pretty crazy. Trump has renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War for a specific reason. We're going to war. It's over. The era of playing games with criminals has ended. So now, you know, New York, that horrific sight, that horrific video we saw in New York at the subway or the bus, whatever that was, the lady got on, was horrific. That's coming to an end. And I'm telling you, it's coming to an end now. It's going to be every Democratic hellhole, every ran Democratic hellhole will have troops. I'm telling you this now. It's coming. And then you got to think they're going to clean up these people. They're going to be carted off, taken out, you know, these violent criminals. I don't know where, you know, do you care where they go? Because I don't. Making life miserable for me, your kids, your family. Don't really care where they go, to be honest with you. I don't. So it's the boomerang that I've always talked about is here, and it's going to get, it's picking up speed. So the era of playing games with criminals has ended. It's time to drive the nail in the coffin and take the criminals and drugs off the streets. Fentanyl killing hundreds and thousands a year. That's serious. I'm serious about that. It's a battlefield now, folks. Do you know that the clubs, I looked this up, are 35% decrease, bars, clubs. Kids don't go out as much anymore. I think it has to do with the phone. I think people are losing all human connection. But, you know, if you think about it, your drink gets spiked. With fentanyl, you die. When I was going out just 5 years ago, people were folding over at bars and passing out and being revived by ambulances. There was ambulances all over Scottsdale when I was there. Hell, that's where I got stabbed. Trump has stopped World War III, but has declared war on the deep state, cartels, and Federal Reserve. Now, that's important, the Federal Reserve, because that's coming. Donald Trump critics were beside themselves over the president's Saturday Truth Social post that featured an AI reimaging of the war movie Apocalypse Now, which he rebranded 𝗀𝗶𝗱𝗲 Now. I love the smell of deportations in the morning. I love it. I love this guy. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. in reference to Trump's rebranding of the Department of Defense. Behind an AI-generated image of Trump as a key character in the movie is a depiction of Chicago burning with helicopters hovering over the city. There it is. I mean, I love the way this guy trolls. I'm not going to lie. I love the way he trolls. But Chicago warns, we are the troops. They're saying to Trump, bring it. We are the troops. Inside Chicago's split communities, as Trump vows to deploy National Guard. On the south side of Chicago, few people seemed braced for President Donald Trump's forces or troops. You got to think, folks, who's from Chicago? Obama. I don't know. Clean up Washington, D.C. first, then go to the next target, Chicago. I don't know what would be after that. Probably somewhere California, L.A. Newsom's on the clock. Yeah, Newsom's on the clock. Oh, boy. But many here would tell you about another battle, one for the souls of the young. We drove through the neighborhoods notorious of their levels of violent crime. In one, Bronzeville, we went to the spot where 7 people were shot and wounded in a drive-by attack last weekend. It was a block from Chicago police headquarters. From police headquarters, they're doing drive-bys. They don't care. Violence. This is serious, man. The casualties were among at least 58 people shot, 8 fatally, across the city over the Labor Day holiday weekend. Let me say that again. 58 people. 58. That's insanity. So, yeah, I'm all for the military coming in. Clean it up. And, if you need to keep some around in cities like this, I'm sure they're going to stick around for a while. Chicago mayor calls Trump's federalization threats beneath the honor of our nation. Protests are planned, so they're getting ready to plan the protest. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson on Saturday shot back at President Donald Trump's potential plans to temporarily federalize the city, calling on citizens to protect Chicago from Donald Trump. So he's doing a rallying cry, telling citizens to protect Chicago. SGN are you there?
Indeed, I am, Nino.
What do you make of all this, SG? I mean, this is getting pretty wild. It's getting crazy. It looks like to me like, all right, we're getting ready to go in there and do some cleanup. Is this part of the operation, SG, where do you think he's putting his ducks in a row to knock him down so when the arrests happen?
Absolutely, I do. And I think that the conversation gets a lot deeper as we look at what's about to happen with respect to Illinois and the federal government, right, Nino? We have a situation here in the United States of America where since the U.S. Civil War, we have not had appropriate constitutional separation of powers. We've not had appropriate constitutional jurisdictions in any form or fashion. And we've seen the corporatization, which acts as a broad, all-encompassing methodology of inclusion of the entirety of the United States of America. There are no several states of the Union in their truest and most authentic form in this current day and time. And I would refer people out there in your audience to just jump on Dun & Bradstreet and begin looking up the corporate identifiers for the several states of the Union out there included underneath the U.S. corporation. So what we have going on is the entryway, if you will, the drawbridge into a much broader civilization level discussion that has to happen. What are the powers of the federal government when enforcing certain national emergencies? What are the responsibilities of the states to acquiesce versus obstruct and protect against the federal government? How far do those measures go? All of these are going to be explored as we see what's happening here. And the lingo that I see coming out, not just from the Trump administration, but from all of the Democratic left about these coming events, sort of belies the direction that they're going to take it. They're going to attempt to paint this as though it is some Hitlerian seizure of power, when in fact what we see happening is nothing more than the actionability in the public domain of executive orders that were renewed during the Biden administration, the entirety of that administration, to allow for certain federalization capabilities when dealing with certain serious criminality, serious human rights abuses, and threats to national security. You know, when we saw the invasion, essentially, of the United States of America across the southern border, and it was just exactly that. I think we have anywhere from 18 to 25 million, depending on current estimates. When we have something like that that affects all of the several states, it automatically allows for the federal government to be involved to reduce the criminality that is as a direct result of those particular events. It also allows, however, for the ace in the card, the ace in the hole card that happens to be up the Trump administration sleeve, which is military jurisdiction, right? You have a situation where there is a potential for enemy combatants of a militarized or terroristic nature. We have infrastructure in the paperwork and in the administrative landscape of the United States that goes all of the way back to 2001 that allows for certain expansion of federal authority under military direction to reduce the threat of terrorism, to fight insurgency, to fight terroristic forces within the Republic of the United States. And I think we're seeing that infrastructure, quite literally, Nino, the one that was built out to enslave the American population, be turned against the slave masters themselves.
So, Trump has 3 years of, he has 3 years to properly clean up America, dismantle the Democratic Party, clean up the cities, neutralize protests, the coming protests. That's why he did a no cash bail, a ban on no cash bail, also flag burning. This is all strategy, folks. This is all strategy. He's getting ready. He's preparing to get ready for what I believe is the arrest. And I've heard this in the back channels, 𝗪𝗍. I know you're on the same page as me as this. But he's going to go into the more violent cities right now and get ahead of the ball, isn't he? I mean, he's going to go in there and neutralize the potential coming of massive civil unrest, right?
That's precisely what you're seeing, I think, right now, Nino. And it's also very interesting because he's going after what seems to be a targeted order of dark money corruption and the ability to, siphon off hundreds of millions of dollars into, funnels that are untraceable by the tenets of the old system. With this new system that we've talked about, that may be different, but that's neither here nor there. But fundamentally, what you have is the most the highest priority targets, if you will, the highest priority areas of concern that are being addressed. And those areas also happen to be the areas that allow for a significant amount of funding of criminality that is off book, right? You've got Baltimore, that's now been called out by the president as being next up for something like this. Chicago has a long and storied history of deep, dark criminal underbellies that tie in with the federal and local governments, including the entirety of the Chicago mayoral landscape. Quite literally, Nino, the fictional city of Gotham from the Batman comic books is based off of Chicago and in some fashions New York. And so what you've got there is an exposure, quite literally, or an attack, if you will, coming from the Trump administration on the criminal underbelly that has manipulated the U.S. political landscape and the U.S. financial landscape for at least 100 years in its current form.
Yeah, I've heard they've already got the strategic set up on how to come into Chicago. They know all the streets. They know all the neighborhoods. They're going to close in on perimeters. I mean, this is all coming. I've heard it's going to come this month, 𝗪𝗍. What have you heard?
It would make sense for it to come this month, given the rhetoric and the fervor of the rhetoric coming from the White House and from the Democratic left and the propaganda media right now. I find it very interesting, Nino, that when we talk about these coming domestic events, which will define the direction, by the way, that our civilization goes over the next 50 to 100 years, right? These efforts being undertaken by an administration that arguably serves we the people in its broadest and most inclusive form, I think, that it can for the present time, versus this deep state opponent. We don't have a whole lot of time to get that underway, but these events are going to determine how events come over the next 3 to 5 years, and then from there over the next 10 to 40 years. And so with respect to this entire situation, I think that what we have going on, quite frankly, Nino, is the preparation for a very significant civilization level event to begin probably this month. It would make sense with the symbology, September, of course, being the month where they plunged the world into an apocalyptic style anarchy with the 9/11 events of 2001. But also it happens to be the same month of the Jewish holiday Rosh Hashanah, which is on the 23rd of this particular month. And it's very interesting that the U.S. Naval Institute put out a post just a couple of days ago titled Red Tide Rising 9/23/2025. And red tide is a reference, of course, to a production and a book that's been written, but it's also a reference in the scientific world to the over.
You cut out, 𝗪𝗍. Say that again.
Check 1 2.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead. Say that again.
All right, I was saying the red tide reference is also in the scientific world a reference to the overgrowth of toxicological algae that can paralyze fish in the water. And it can also be toxic to humans. It can produce respiratory issues, sinus issues, congestion, high fever, and dizziness. And so as we look at what's happening, we may very well have a call and response situation being played out in the background, if you will, in response to what's happening with Trump's movement into Illinois and into other areas that he's already declared as going to be targets in this broader operation. And I think we're going to see a dredging out, if you will, of the darkest criminal elements of the U.S. political landscape that quite literally, Nino, have been waging war on their populations for decades.
So we know that both sides have to go in right now. I mean, they are anticipating large scale or major arrests coming up down the pipeline. And I've heard that we could even see a couple this month going into October. I've definitely heard the fall. So I'm not going to make any predictions here, but it makes sense that, you know, he's already deployed the troops to 19 states to get ready for what I believe is coming, to quell and neutralize the civil unrest. I've also heard the 2020, you know what, is going to be, there's going to be huge executive orders signed to for the midterms. Regarding the midterms, I've heard a lot of things are coming down the pipeline. Are you hearing the same thing, SG? And that will make the deep state pull a trigger move to where maybe civil unrest and protests will begin, or some kind of event, mass terrorist type of event. Are you hearing the same thing?
I am, and I think the interesting part of the alternate media world nowadays with respect to these ongoing events is attempting to make sense of these present time real world transpirations, right? We've got a number of things that we know we can expect from our opponent. We know that we can expect another, we'll just call it a health situation, right? We know that we can expect some sort of mass societal destabilization effort. Now, that doesn't necessarily translate immediately to a destabilization success, but what it does translate to is pockets of significant unrest popping up in an impossibly coordinated fashion, which will showcase not only to the American people, but the entirety of the world, the nature of that intelligentsia shadow control in the background, and also simultaneously provide a public appetite and a public reason to expand those authorities that we talked about just a moment ago and bring forward a shadow infrastructure that was put in place in the lead up to the 2020 event that you referenced a moment ago. And with respect to that event itself, I've heard that SCOTUS is eventually going to set that right. I heard that years ago, but I also heard that it was going to be set right at an appropriate point in time in the journey to allow for a rewind of the clock that could be smoothly transitioned. In other words, we would have to have control of some of these ongoing situations. We would have to quite literally turn some of the faucets off, if you will, in order to rewind the piping and go and take it back to an area that it was prior to, and then provide from there a landscape that secures the election process into the future. So, looking at what we've got, playing out, I could say anywhere from 3 to 5 months to 6 months. It really doesn't matter, right? Because we're into the breach where these events are now transpiring in real time. Awakened Patriots have been talking for a long time about some of these events were going to come down the pipe. There was going to be a reckoning. National emergencies would end up being some of the overarching nets that sweep up the broader amounts of criminality. National emergencies through presidential memorandum and executive order were going to be some of the reasons or some of the methods, I should say, the orchestrative gears by which we move this process forward and truly get a grip on society. It's why the office of the presidency was so important. It's why they never thought that she would lose. It's why that we had to have a patriotic situation, a counter-revolution, if you will, bloodless and peaceful in the background to ensure that we, the people, could take back power constitutionally and lawfully. And that is the process which we are living. And these days, it's becoming more of what we've talked about in days past, quite literally proving the future direction of where we're going here.
SG, the first arrest, according to those boards, I don't like to say the letter in the alphabet here, but according to those boards, the first arrest will shock the world. I think we all saw that. That was President Trump. I think in order to execute this plan that Trump has, he's going to have the National Guard at all the major cities, at least the Democratic hellholes that are going to be the most disruptive during this time of arrest. So I don't think we see a major arrest until all the cities have the main Democratic hellholes have National Guard in them. I just don't see how we go for the first arrest when we don't have our ducks in a row. We don't have our chess pieces in line or in order. So I believe that we have the first tell sign that arrests are going to come is when we start seeing more troops in more cities. Do you agree with me on that? I think that has to happen first.
I think that's a really salient and interesting point as we look at the landscape of how this makes sense logistically and logically at the intersectory level in society, right? We have to have kinetic things in place. We have to be braced for impact, quite literally. We have to be able to move rapidly forward as a cohesive unit because we're going to see a response of a cohesive nature from the opposing side. And we've sort of seen that, being displayed to the American people for a long time. The Democrat Party itself operates as one very dark blob style organism, and it moves in cohesion and lockstep with itself. You don't see deviation. President Trump even calls out that might be their only strength. They function essentially as one front. And so, these elements that exist to support that Democrat National Convention and that Democrat criminal underbelly, and it is a significant underbelly here in the United States, they are also going to respond cohesively. There is a coordinated infrastructure. There is a communication network in place. There is a transportation and logistic element to it. We've seen that mapped out through individuals like Mr. Flynn, who have put out significant diagrams on back tracing that they've done through NGOs and certain governmental nonprofits and things of that nature. So all of this has to be accounted for when we look at launching a kinetic, a physical real world assault, for lack of a better term, on those very deep criminal elements, which now include foreign invaders. And I keep coming back to that to highlight that is where the ace in the hole really lies with the administration and with the federal government right now. It is a federal issue that ties back to immigration. It affects all 50 states, and invasion is one of the most basic foundational military crimes that no one in the Western world would disagree with if it was presented in the fashion of actually what has occurred here rather than what the media says has been going on.
So there's a lot of nefarious activity happening. Obviously, we know in Chicago. It's not just Chicago, folks. It's Baltimore. It's LA, San Francisco. I mean, it's everywhere. It's been very well taken over. Basically what Trump's doing is taking America back and doing that before the clickety-clank, in our opinions. But first, folks, federal grand jury in Chicago indicts suspected Mexican cartel leader Oscar Manuel Gastelum Iribe, known as 𝗬𝗏𝗡. 𝗬𝗏𝗡 is a suspected head of the 𝗪𝗏𝗡 organization faction of the Sinaloa cartel. He allegedly conspired to import tons of heroin and cocaine and faces mandatory life in prison if convicted. I've heard that Chicago is a very strong base for the Sinaloa cartel. That's just what I've heard. A federal grand jury in Chicago has indicted and accused violent cartel boss on narco-terrorism, drug and firearm charges. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Illinois announced Friday. So, more to come, folks. And I've also heard, SG, and I don't know if you've heard this as well. Now, this is hearsay rumors that when the National Guard comes into places like L.A. or it comes into Chicago, that's also where they're gonna roll out massive artificial intelligence surveillance. Now, this is just what I've heard, but while the National Guard's there, they'll be working on surveillance, drones, cameras, kind of like a Big Brother system in these cities, which I'm kind of against. But in order to keep tabs on these cities, they'll be rolling in some kind of artificial intelligence surveillance system, tracking and tracing, facial recognition, things like that. Is that part of the operation? Have you heard anything about that?
Well, it's very interesting when we talk about AI and the technocratic angle to a lot of this, right? I think that we can look at it really in two forms or two ways. We have moved into a digital world, in a way that is irrevocably, progressive. In other words, we can't take back the information age, right? This is a cultural evolution that has already occurred. And we were brought into this age by those elements out there in society that had really some seriously sinister ideas and designs for what they wanted to do here in the world. We can't talk too much about that on FluffTube, but a lot of your audience is going to be familiar with what that is and how that has occurred and the individuals behind it, as well as their belief systems. So when we look at the landscape now, it's akin to capturing the entirety of the enemy's infrastructure, right? Do we dismantle the infrastructure, or do we use it to take out the enemy first and then dismantle it? We've got a situation, I think, with respect to the technocracy and the capabilities of artificially intelligent powered surveillance out there that really are going to require an evaluation from a Bill of Rights perspective, almost like a digital ecosystem Bill of Rights, or a Bill of Prohibitions on how that technology can be deployed and what those advancements are truly allowed to do in society. But for the time being, we don't have anything like that, but we do have control in many ways of a lot of individuals on that side of the aisle, those very, very dark, sinister, megalomaniac style minds who have brought a ridiculous amount of money back into the equation, supposedly through investments. I personally would assert that it's probably more likely a threat of seizure in the background. But along with that comes access to their technological capabilities and things that they have built out for the darker designs against mankind. So using that to attack their criminal underbelly and remove it makes a great deal of sense to me when we talk about irregular war. The issue, the rub out there for patriots, and I think this is the rub that I share with a lot of individuals, is we do not have a real understanding yet, a true clear direction of where the limits are, where the limits are going to be, or what that discussion is going to materialize as. And I would say arguably, Nino, that's because we have a situation here in the Western world where the infestation is so deep, so vast, and so wide. We sort of have to prioritize, the direction we go here and how much information and what discussions we ignite at the national and civilizational level, because we can only handle so many at a time. But I think in the short form future, we're going to have a broad discussion, a national discourse, if you will, a town hall of some kind, that perhaps goes on for a number of weeks or months. Perhaps it coincides with this great American fair that's going on right now. Whatever form it takes, it's going to happen so that we can address the concerns of the collective as well as the individual. This has to be an operation, if you will, a technological quantum leap, as President Trump described it on the campaign trail, that is managed effectively and in balance with liberty, autonomy, and personal self-determination here in the United States and around the world.
So a lot of developments are coming this week, folks, from what I'm hearing, especially this month and going into fall. But people do get sick of having troops in their cities, but it's not going to leave until, in my opinion, these troops are not leaving until the arrests are done. And I've heard these arrests could take not just months, but years, okay, to get them all done is what I've heard. But thousands march in Washington, D.C. against Trump's deployment of National Guard. Several thousand people took to the streets of Washington, D.C. on Saturday, demanding that U.S. President Donald Trump end the deployment of National Guard troops patrolling the Capitol. The demonstration, held under the banner "We Are All D.C.," drew undocumented immigrants. Okay, let me say that again. It drew undocumented immigrants and pro-Palestine supporters, among others. Protests carried out place cards reading "Trump must go, free DC, resist tyranny," while chanting slogans denouncing the president. So that's how backwards this is. But you remember, folks, the cure has to be greater than the disease. SG, could you give us some insight from you, what you've heard from your perspective of the battlefield is on how long, the big arrests come first, but how long will troops be on the streets for? Will it be until the ending of all the arrests? I mean, that could take years, correct?
Well, I think that the question itself, sort of varies by complexity based on the landscape that you're in, right? The situation in Los Angeles, for example, got under control, at least from the public narrative and public attention landscape, relatively quickly. Chicago is likely going to be a little bit of a longer journey on that, because the corruption and criminal underbelly is so much older and so much more well entrenched. With respect to length of time and also number of troops, I think something that I would highlight for the audience out there, especially those that are pretty gun shy about this whole discussion itself, is the fact that President Trump himself said just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it wasn't even a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was like 6 or 7 days ago now, my memory sort of escapes me on it, but he said at a press conference that a judge was allowing him to leave 300 troops in all of LA. Operating under federal jurisdiction to sort of support the LA Sheriff's Department. And in other words, the contingency force that was left there was so infinitesimal compared to what could be fielded on the battlefield there, that civilian jurisdiction is sort of assumed both by the public consciousness, but also physically it makes more pragmatic sense to allow that. And so that's what they're there for, to assist with the law enforcement entities in that area. I could see a similar situation happening after the acute phase in Chicago. And also for a number of other, blue cities and areas that are problematic with respect to the immigration component of this. And I don't want to wax overly repetitive, but it really does come back to that particular line item. The immigration component, and especially the ability to not account for a great deal of things that came in to the United States of America, allows for a lot of different flexibility with blended authority, right? You have to be able to respond to whatever threat is on the ground. If you have active intelligence that you've got a Club K missile system in the port somewhere, that's going to be a military and bomb squad situation versus just your standard sheriff's department who's able to field a lot of deputies really fast for things like crowd control. And so I think a great deal of your time variance is going to be dependent on your landscape. It's going to be dependent on each individual case. It's going to be dependent on how quickly and how effectively the other side deploys whatever countermeasures or resistances that they have, right? We have a criminal syndicate that has taken over the entirety of the U.S. urban landscape over the last 50 to 60 years. And there's a lot of armament trafficking that has accompanied drug trafficking and human trafficking into these areas, and not just armaments of a standard conventional nature, right? And I don't want to get too far afield on fluff tube with that. But regardless, what we have, I think, is a case-by-case scenario that's going to be presented to the American people. And ideally, it will be presented to the American people with transparency from the administration and from the active law enforcement operations that are happening out there to showcase the countervailing point to the lies that the propaganda media and the Democrat left will be amplifying.
You said 300 troops in LA, but I've heard this, and I don't know if this is true, but they don't all have to be in fatigues, right? They don't have to be in army gear. They could be undercover as well, right?
Correct. You can have them operate as plainclothes agents. That would be under the civilian jurisdiction and whatever the civilian law enforcement operations need of those supportive DoD resources at the time, right? And the executive orders that were signed during the first Trump administration, as well as some of the Pentagon's own guidances that was issued, I believe, in 2019. And I forget the directive, but I want to say it was a Marine Corps directive. It allowed for essentially the use of whatever identifying appearance and apparel and factors were needed for the civilian efforts when those DoD resources were working in conjunction with the civilian law enforcement sector. So I think you're going to see a lot of that as we go forward. I think that's one of the reasons we saw so many National Guard deputized as U.S. Marshals. I believe it was in 2021 to allow for federal law enforcement supportive actions, with those civilian agencies. We've seen those civilian agencies involved, including the U.S. Marshals and others, involved in a lot of the immigration and ICE efforts. So it's a lot of dovetailing together, quite literally through the paperwork to allow all of this to occur, Nino. And that's one of the things that I think will ignite a broader discussion nationally in the United States. How far is too much paperwork?
Alex, I don't know if we have any winners for the gift card giveaway, but let's pick two winners real quick. 𝗧𝗏𝗏, let's do Golden Goddess, you're gift card winner number 1. Number 2, let's do 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏. 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏, you're the gift card winner number 2. And then 3 and 4, let's do 3. Let's get it out of the way. Gilbert Rogers, I'll get Gilbert Rogers. So 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏, Gilbert Rogers, and then we'll pick the 4th one soon. Also, folks, Chicago fights back against Trump's National Guard threats as New York City's Mamdani issues warning. So you're going to have people like Gavin Newsom, Mamdani, I don't know, Beto O'Rourke, really getting on their soapbox in times like this until the world just crashes down at their feet, which is coming. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and New York City mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani issued fiery statements opposing President Donald Trump's escalating threats to deploy federal troops into the largely Democratic cities, a continuation of his weaponization of the government against his opponents. That's what they're going to say it is, his weaponization. Mamdani asked about the idea of the National Guard troops being sent to New York City, and he cautioned that the potential illegality of it, you know what I'm trying to say, of an act would not dissuade Trump from pursuing it. The first thing is we have to prepare for the inevitability of that deployment, he said. We cannot try to convince ourselves that because something is illegal, Donald Trump will not do it. Here you go, folks. Here's a product of Obama bringing in millions upon millions of these type of people right here. Now they're taking office. Now they're gaining high levels of office and political realms. So here we are, folks. We're going to have to deal with this, and it's all coming. What do you think of Mamdani? He's a product of Obama, correct, SG?
Well, I would even expand on that with respect to his background. I've done a little bit of digging, but not a terrible amount. But what I can tell, he's the son of globalist money that came out of Uganda, and it had a couple of other intersectory points. He's very aristocratic in his background. He's funded by the same, political blob and even some of the same groups that have funded individuals like, Michael Bloomberg and Barack Obama and others. This is an individual who would absolutely be a WEF style shill occupying the office of New York City mayor. And it would be a very interesting, I think, and a symbolic subjugation, if you will, of the American population for someone like Mamdani to win that particular race. I think that it would carry more of a psychological blow to the American population than political problems with respect to the Trump administration. Now, I will say that, when we look at these candidates, we have to keep in mind that a lot of the funding groups, a lot of the Act Blue and the different Democrat-associated funding machines have also been implicated in criminal activities. And some of those investigations are ongoing with the Department of Justice. We've heard a couple of reports now from John Solomon talking about grand juries investigating certain elements of the Democrat Party with respect to the subversion of the Russia situation that occurred over the 2017 to 2019 period, the bulk of the first Trump presidency. And so I think that as we see some of those organizations in the background begin to have problems, potentially shift themselves, close, move somewhere else, end up in hot water publicly, we may see their candidates and those associated with them really stained badly in the eyes of the public to the point where even the machine can't cheat well enough.
SG, I'm going to bring you on Nino'sCorner.tv right after this. Let's get to Venezuela. And I'm hearing a coup may happen to overthrow Maduro. Let's get into the details on that. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'll be sending you a link as soon as I get off of reading What the Fuck News. Does it sound good, SG?
Sounds good. God bless all.
See you right now. All right. So I'll see SG on Nino'sCorner.tv. We'll be talking about Venezuela, what's going to be happening there. A lot of developments happening with Venezuela. They're going to be taken out. They're going, folks. Going, gone. Trump wastes strikes targeting cartels inside Venezuela, part of a wider pressure campaign on Maduro. President Trump is weighing a multitude of options for carrying out military strikes against drug cartels operating in Venezuela, including potentially hitting targets inside the country as part of a broader strategy aimed at weakening leader Nicolas Maduro. Now, I've heard Mike Fury has come on Nino'sCorner.tv to talk about there could be a coup that develops to where the people overthrow Maduro. Now, who would be in charge of that? Who do you think? So these things are coming, and Trump, he's playing down the regime change in Venezuela, but he's deploying more stealth fighter jets. So this is picking up. Can you imagine being Maduro and waking up every morning and being like, having your cup of coffee and looking out your window and going, wow, I'm surrounded by battleships. It's a good day today. Yeah, I'm not sleeping. I don't think he's sleeping at all. This guy's done. It's over. He's a dead man walking, folks. I'm telling you that right now. It's over for this guy. And I'm hearing it's all going to be happening by the end of fall. Now, I don't like to put any time or dates out there, but it looks like it's all picking up right now. With the blood moon last night, events follow, folks. Events follow those things. In other news, are Venezuelan troops defecting into the United States? Rumors are pilots are defecting. I looked it up on ChatGPT. Now, I've heard this in the background that pilots are actually getting the hell out of there and seeking asylum in the United States because they know what's coming for them. They know this is not a good move. But there's no credible evidence that the U.S. government is offering asylum en masse to Venezuelan troops or military pilots. Now, this is stuff I'm hearing behind the scenes. I don't know if I tried to look it up, and I saw no validation in it, but I'm going to report on it anyway because I don't know. I think it's possible. And every time I use ChatGPT, it's very left-leaning, very politically correct. I don't know if Grok is any better, but I think it's all garbage anyway, folks. New York's U.S. Open visit sparks boos and long security lines. I didn't see it. I don't know if you all saw it. Did he get booed? I didn't see this. I love tennis. I can't believe I missed this. But President Donald Trump was loudly booed at the men's final of the U.S. Open on Sunday, where extra security caused by his visit led to lines long enough that made people miss the start of play, even after organizers delayed it. So people were pissed off and they were booing him. I don't know. I didn't see it, and I can't believe I missed the damn tennis match because I love tennis. I love tennis more than boxing, football. I love tennis. But I missed it. But I watched the game. I watched the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens, and whoa, I almost turned that game off. I almost turned it off. I left it on. Holy shit, what a comeback. I've never seen a better comeback. I had a feeling it was going to happen. They made some good plays. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to turn it off just yet. I'm going to watch this. And wow, Buffalo Bills. Did you see this, Alex?
Dude, that game was nuts, man. Yeah, it was
insane, right, dude? Like, amazing.
Yeah, I have Josh Allen in fantasy too, so I was super
awesome game, dude. I loved it. I could not believe what I was watching. That's football, dude. When you get to see stuff like that, that's football, bro.
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
All right, folks. In other news, Alex, let me know what the next gift card winner is. Beyonce and husband Jay-Z are set to splash out on a spectacular rural estate in Cotswolds as they become the latest U.S. stars to leave America. They're leaving the United States and set up home in the rural British hotspot. So everyone's moving to the UK. They're getting the hell out of the United States. I guess, I don't know. Are they seeing the writing on the wall? Are they like, might not be good for us here. I got a bad feeling about everything. Let's get the fuck out. That's how I see this. Why are they leaving? I thought you were a country music star now, Beyonce. Come on, baby. What the hell's going on? Don't you want to sing your country music here in the country land? Nashville. Aren't you a country music star now? You're going to the UK. Well, whatever. The Cotswolds are no stranger to having big names as residents, with stars such as the Beckham family and Ellen DeGeneres among those setting up a home in the countryside. And now it's thought that Beyonce and Jay-Z are in the final stages of purchasing 58 acres of land on the outskirts of Wigginton after receiving planning permission to build a spectacular rural estate. So they're going to go live like kings. They're going to go live like royalty, folks, in the UK. Oh, boy. What do you all think? You think the hammer's coming down on them? I think they're getting the hell out of the way. I think they see the writing on the wall, and they're like, you know what? We know where this is going. Let's get out while we can. Why else would you move? Why else would you get the hell out of the greatest country? I think they're being protected over there now. That's just my opinion. In what the fuck news, have any of you seen the movie Midnight Express? Nightmare. Now, this is why I don't like to travel abroad, but I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? If you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have to worry about it. But you just do the slightest thing wrong, and you're going to jail for a very long time. British woman who is 23 years old is jailed for life in Dubai after making a very stupid mistake, like a dumb mistake. A young girl going out there probably just wants to party, meet a rich man, a guy that pulls up in a camel. I don't know. But he has a lot of money. Pulls up in a camel and a sword, turban, takes her out on a date. Anyway, that's what she was hoping for. But she made a very stupid mistake. She says her devastated mother as she appeals for help. A young British woman has been jailed for life in Dubai. Her family has revealed. Mia O'Brien, 23 years old of Hutton, Liverpool, made a very stupid mistake, according to her mother, who has launched a heartfelt plea on fundraising site for help with travel and legal fees. Mia has been given a life sentence over in Dubai, as she is now in central prison. Her mother, Daniela McKenna, 46, wrote in a post. As you could probably imagine, as her mother, I am absolutely devastated. I haven't seen my daughter since last October. Mia is only 23 years old and has never done a bad thing in her life. She's never done anything wrong in her life. This is a young girl who went to a university to do law and unfortunately got mixed up in the wrong so-called friends and made a very bad slip-up or stupid mistake and is now paying the price. What's that other movie? Midnight Express, and there's another called The Palace or something. Do you know what it's called, Alex? The something Palace, where those two girls go to jail in like Thailand or some shit. It's scary, man. You can't mess around in other countries like you can here, dude.
Dude,
You have no rights.
No, man, no, I can't. Like, don't bring drugs. Don't. I guess that's what she was doing, right?
Yeah,
Probably.
that's what I think. So that's what I think. It doesn't say what she did, but I'll finish here. So she goes, the mother's asking to donate, right? Anything you can to spare, even if it's just $1, it could help massively, and I would be forever grateful. So thank you so much. Later, she added, I want to just thank everyone for their donations. This money will be used for my daughter Mia for any legal fees that may arise, and maybe even go towards her family in Dubai, getting family over to Dubai to see her. So they haven't even seen her. I would imagine the conditions there are much worse than here. And dude, you can't fuck around in these countries, dude. Like kids, American kids or kids from the UK, Western civilized world, goes there thinking that they can party like they do here, or like, oh, we'll take some ecstasy in the bathroom, no one will know. Dude, they'll spot you on camera and arrest you right there.
Yeah. No, I mean, these girls are getting
not worth it.
No, dude, they're getting exploited. People are getting exploited. There's a lot of really wealthy. There's a lot of money in that city, and they like to import, fly out the Westerners and have their fun.
Someone just said, "Can you say prostitute?" I didn't think about that one. That could be it too.
It's usually what happens. It's usually they're flying these girls out, and it's they're going on yachts, or they're doing whatever lavish type lifestyle for a week. Fly them out for a weekend.
Yeah, they're escorts.
Yeah, right. That's what it is. And it's not vanilla missionary stuff that they're getting these girls to do. It's really,
I've heard,
really,
dude.
Really
I heard they're like crapping on their faces and shit.
Yeah.
I've heard it's like humiliating stuff. I have friends that go out there like, oh, you should see what we do to these women. I've heard that. Yeah. In fact, I heard that like 10 years ago that they degrade women. They fly them out there to degrade them.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what she was doing. A lot of American girls go out there thinking, and they get degraded, like horrible stuff.
Yep. And maybe right. Maybe they brought, something with them from the UK in their luggage too, to party with, and then
or they can get set up by these guys too. Just because these guys get humor, they get off on like putting these women in prison.
A psychopath would lie. The psychopathic tendencies, sociopathic, and they just have no respect. Not even no respect. They genuinely disrespect and dislike,
women,
or even hate the West, and just people from it, and they want to, show what they can get.
So you think they can fly them out there and purposely like set them up?
Sure, that happens.
I bet you that happens. You're right.
Blackmail.
Yeah, I've heard of people going out there and just like they make women cry going home. Like they do terrible things and they have no way out of it once they're there.
Well, yeah, no, right. It makes it look all on the Instagram. They see the highlight reels. It looks all fun, but behind the scenes, that's not.
Yeah, next thing you know, you got like 4 or 5 guys standing over you, and they're going to do what they want.
Yeah. And what are you going to do about it? Yeah.
Right. And if you do anything, maybe she talked back or something happened and they said, okay, throw her in jail. Who knows? Who knows? Folks, don't let your kids go there. It's not worth it. Especially what does a single woman have any seriously? What there's no reason for any single woman, beautiful woman, to go there at all. Like go there for what? Yeah.
I hope that era is going to come to an end. I mean, I don't know that it will completely, but hopefully it starts dying down.
Dude, I can't believe how ballsy women are. Like the shit they do. Like they go out and they do. I mean, men are by instinct, predators, dude. Like men, like, and you don't know what you're getting, man.
Yeah,
that's scary. Do we have another gift card winner?
Yeah, winner number 4,
𝗦𝗏 𝗏 number 4, 𝗦𝗏 𝗏. Thank you so much for playing the winner chicken dinner with Sancho. So Alex, I guess Wednesday I may have to do an earlier show.
Okay.
Wednesday I think I have to do an earlier show. I'm going to be out of town. I'll be in my motel room. So I may have to do a earlier show on Wednesday, folks, but I'll be there. I don't miss, but it may be an hour and a half earlier. Let's do some we missed some super chats last time.
Yeah, sorry folks, we missed the super chats last time.
Yeah.
Beverly Adams, big shout out to Beverly for her ongoing support, and sorry we missed your message that day.
𝗀𝗃𝗏𝗃 or something like that also, right?
There was a few others. Sorry if we forgot you guys. We really appreciate your support though.
Absolutely. Michelle Christians, thank you so much. 𝗪𝗔, thank you for all you do. Yeah, absolutely. 𝗪𝗔's always great conversation. 𝗀𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗏, thank you, super sticker. What else we got here? Robert Kennedy, almost there, my friend. And okay, thank you, Robert Kennedy. Annette Felix, super sticker. Thank you so much. These are kind of cool. Miss Sheila, salute to you and your channel. Thank you, Miss Sheila.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, folks. I appreciate it. All right, Alex. I'll see you. I'll talk to you later, and we'll figure out if we're going to do another show tomorrow or something.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, folks, I have 𝗬𝗓𝗏 coming up. His response to the last video I did with Three-Eye Atlas being decoded, 𝗬𝗓𝗏 definitely has a response for that one. He says mass deception if it's anything at all. So even if it's anything at all, and if it is something, it's deception. So, all right. So I'll put that up tomorrow. I'll premiere that tomorrow in the evening. All right, folks, go to ninoscorner.tv. 50% off everything right now. Everything is 50% off. I'm pulling the plug Wednesday midnight. I'm going to leave it up. So for those of you who have never been into a Ringside with Nino, you can sign up for Ringside with Nino. We're doing it Wednesday, 5 p.m. This Wednesday, 5 p.m. Ringside with Nino, baby. All right, folks, I'm out of here. And the new heavyweight champion of podcasting and being the black